conservation. So when I joined as a student in 1969, oops, I pressed the wrong button. Can I go back? Right. I was given this, Nature Conservation in Malaysia, which was produced for the 21st anniversary, and you see at the bottom here, free copy is given to all members. So when I joined, I was given this book, and I found it fascinating. It was full of information on every plant and animal group and places. It really was a landmark publication. So that was 1961, 21st anniversary. Third Malaysia Plan, I think we're now up to, is it 11th or 12th Malaysia Plan now, Latif? Is it 11th or 12th? 11th Malaysia Plan. The third Malaysia Plan was the first one to incorporate a very strong element of conservation. Because after independence, the big push in changing from a colonial regime was to have development, to set up local industries, local employment, and revive the economy. But in the third Malaysia Plan, they were very enlightened, and it had a lot of conservation information on which areas should be protected and what direction conservation should go. And most of the information for this actually came from members of M&S. So we had a very important role in those days in influencing government policy. Not so much influence as maybe supporting. Have I missed one out? No. Oops. Right. Now, after the beginnings, when a lot of the style, as I said, was anecdotal, where people went out and looked what they could find, and then wrote about, as Dr. Avadani said, finding something new for Malaysia. And there's an interesting story. Haddock, who Professor Saleh mentioned, his book was based on the work he did when he was a police officer in a very remote area of Malaysia. And in his free time, he'd get on his bicycle and go out and look at birds. And then this information was what he wrote up in the Changi jail. So that one copy, he told us when he gave a talk to the Selangor branch, he took home and presented it to his mother very proudly. And she opened it up and she said, "What are these spots that are moving about?" And when he had a look, they were bed bugs. Apparently in Changi jail, they were infested with bed bugs. So he said he quickly had to take it in the garden and beat it and get it. Another story like this is that when Professor Corner was at UPM revising the wayside trees of Malaya, he gave a talk, and when we were talking to local lecturers afterwards, one of them said to him, "It was very easy for you to get the information for your book because in those days they didn't have TV. Now there's TV, you come home, switch it on. You don't think about getting on your bicycle and going out and looking at local birds. But I think you can switch a TV off." Now, I'd like to draw your attention to one thing. We have the Malayan Nature Journal, but we have it started off as the Malayan Naturalist. And you notice it's a supplement, because what happened in the 60s is that the society membership began to change, and our speakers this morning have talked about this. Actually, the journal went to Penang, where the new university had been formed, and the young scientists there felt that the M&J should go scientific, and this should be a journal for all branches of scientific work in Malaysia. But it would be based on local plants and animals, original research in all fields of science, and it would look much more scientific. So this is the reason why the cover changed from having a photograph on the front and being more user-friendly, as we say nowadays, to trying to look very formal and scientific. The other side of the coin was that the membership was also expanding, but the expansion was not among scientists, but among the orang ramai, among ordinary people who became interested in the natural world. How to find out, how do you go into a forest? You know, would you get lost? Will anything bite me? Join M&S. The trips are excellently run. You will have a good guide who can inform you what there is. So our membership began to expand with young people who wanted to learn about Malaysian wildlife. So the majority of people were the public. Now you can see here that it was a supplement. And the reason for this is that the old guard in the society were very worried that if the naturalists became too popular and the journal became too boring, then the journal would die and we'd have the naturalist instead, which is not so scientifically full of facts and figures. So it was kept as a supplement to keep it under control. But unfortunately, we discovered that turning the MNJ scientific for all fields didn't work, because there are many other scientific journals in the fields of physiology, anatomy, molecular biology, genetics that are international. And the good papers tended to go there, and the not so good papers tended to come to MNJ. So this wasn't really a good direction to go. So this gradually faded out, and you now don't see so many articles in related fields. Whoops. So then, looking at the situation today, the first thing you notice is that we have the Malayan Nature Journal, but the Malaysian naturalist. I went to hear one talk where somebody said that we changed the name of the society at independence. But actually, this is not the correct situation. We changed the name when Singapore separated. Because we keep Malayan here, because Malayan is a biogeographical region that includes the peninsula and Singapore. Because plants and animals don't care anything about political boundaries. So when we study plants and animals in Peninsula Malaysia, we don't stop at the causeway and then say, oh, Singapore, that's yours. We study the whole area. So that's why we keep this as the Malayan Nature Journal. And then the Malaysian naturalist reflected the name of the society. Now I'd like to mention here Dr. Abadani, because up until that time, Singapore branch was part of the Malayan Nature Journal, and Dr. Avadani for maybe 40 years would take the train up for committee meetings. And it was traditional that the vice president was always from the Singapore branch, the second vice president. So we had branches all over, including the one in Singapore. And then and have their own, but they're not allowed to call themselves the Singapore Nature Society, because that makes them very poor, remain part of the MNS and could join in activities. And in fact, it was, if I remember correctly, it was a Singapore meeting that first went to Endau Rompin, and Dr. Avadani, when he came to the committee meeting in KL, said this was a very important area and they were logging, and he thought we should have a trip there to see what went on. And that was the beginning of the big expedition there. So we had very strong links with Singapore. So that explains why there's the anomaly there. So what happened with M&J, having shed the scientific aspect, trying to be a jack of all trades, it now concentrates on original articles in two fields, conservation and field biology. And the area that we study, that we include articles for, is Sundaland. Sundaland is another biogeographical region. And during the ice ages, it was joined up in one area, and this included Sumatra, Malaya, and Borneo. So we encourage articles from this area because this is biologically interlinked. But even with this local focus, it is very important, it is crucially important to be internationally refereed so that we can think global but act local. The problem is once you stop getting articles internationally refereed, the standard tends to go down, and then people will look for other journals to submit to. And if your article is up to international standard, there's a big choice of other journals to go to. So this is absolutely crucial and very important. The Malaysian naturalists concentrated much more on topical conservation. This is where we reach out to members. So all the local current conservation issues can have write-ups about why it's important, what M&S is doing, whether we've got surveys there, what the situation is, to inform people of what's going on. The naturalist was initially started by To Yapong, who at that time was chairman of the Selangor branch, because he noticed that our local members, who were now no longer scientists, wanted to know more about many things. I remember one of his first issues was the flower mantis, where there's this praying mantis that looks just like an orchid flower. And people say, why is it like that? And there were little stories about local plants and animals. So it was at that level, with a very strong educational value, and to interest people in local biodiversity, which, as you know, Malaysia is one of the hot spots of the world. So there would be general articles about that. Now, the big fight that when I was an editor was to persuade the main committee to have more color, but color costs money. So that was a big struggle. But nowadays, I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of color. And this is excellent, because in the days of digital photography, I don't know how many of you went to the exhibition that the M&S Selangor branch arranged in KL. Their standard of photography is, I mean, beyond professional, because they know the local plants and animals and can take pictures of things that other people don't even know about. So the photographs are very important now as an educational aid. Now, the thing that worries me is that this is optional. I don't know if I got the membership right. Is our membership 80 ringgit and you pay extra for MN?
Yeah, but it's 60 plus 60.
60 plus 60. Okay, so if you pay 60 as a membership and 60 for the naturalist, it's going to cost you 120 ringgit. Now, nowadays, what is 120 ringgit? When I take people out and I look at their trainers, I mean, I might be wearing Adidas Kampong for 20 ringgit, but they are wearing goodness knows what for 400 and 500 ringgit. Why can't they afford to buy the naturalist? And what concerns me most of all is the fact that we are supposed to have education as one of our important missions. If you work in the Selangor branch, you will realize that many of the membership join because they want to go on trips. They're taken to places they would never ever go to. They have excellent leaders who keep them safe and can inform them what's going on. The leaders don't charge, there's no professional fee, and it's very economical. So what you see happens is that it's very easy to become a fantastic tour company for ecotourism. And what you see is that people will join for 2, maybe 3 years, and then they'll say, been there, done that. I'll join another society, do something else. That's why I think everybody should get a copy of The Naturalist. Even flipping through the pictures, you'll learn a bit about plants, animals, and places in Malaysia. You'll pick up on conservation. If it's a hard copy, you'll leave it in the house, maybe your brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandchildren, look at it. I think we should definitely make this compulsorily for all members. I think we could. The reason it got into this state is that at the AGM, when people, the office would put in for an increase in the membership fee, then our stingy members all voted. It got to the point where the membership fee would no longer support the running of the society. And they started looking for what else they could cut down on. And this is unfortunately what they cut down on. And I feel very, very strongly about this. And I turned up for the EGM and made a lot of noise. And then when it came to voting, they said, you can't vote. You know why? Dr. Sally can tell me why I can't vote. Honorary members can't vote. When they send us a letter and say, you know, be an honorary, I say, oh, wow, that's really nice. Thank you. Yeah. But there wasn't a PS at the bottom. You can't vote. So I still feel strongly about this, and I still can't vote. So I hope, please, 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 will somebody bring this up? I really think this is very crucial. Because you look at our age structure. I mean, this is an incredible meeting today where I'm the youngest speaker, and I'm way, well, not way over 70, but over 70. And I mean, Dr. Lim Buliad is trying to beat Dr. Mahathir, I think. But we need our younger generation of people to take over. So where are we going to get them if we don't start pulling people into the society? And I think this is one of the ways that we can do it. Oops, let's try and get the next one. Yes, so I told you when I joined, I got a free copy of the 1961 volume. So when it came up to the, I think it was 50th anniversary, I was the editor at that time. I thought we really must have an update of this. At that time, I had a project with the Canadian Development Group. So I asked them, would you give me 5,000? And I will arrange a conference where people will give papers on all aspects, and we will produce a book. So we had a 3-day conference. And if I remember, it was free for members. I don't think we charged anything. And at the end, all the papers were put together in this book. And even the publication was in that 5,000. The other thing we did that year was to get Kay Lyons, who's our topmost indexer, to produce this bibliography, and Dr. Avadani referred to this. She indexed all the articles in MNJ and MN, which Latif was referring to. And it's an incredible, when we had the Batu Caves, which we're just launching very soon, I can find 30 articles just by looking up Batu Caves here. It's a tremendous resource. So I hope the society will consider putting this online. It's very easy. You put it on a searchable form. All the work has been done for you. It also includes MN. That is very important for conservation. Often the history of conservation, you can only find it in MN, because it tends to be ephemeral. You see it in the papers and it disappears. How many people know that Tamanagara was threatened not only by a hydroelectric dam, but also by logging? And then a road, yes. So all this history, you can just get it by Tamanagara. You'll get a list of everything there is to know or that's been published. So I think we should try to update this and put it online. It's a tremendous resource. Free, I hope. Oops. The special issues are similarly very important in gathering together the data. And this has been done quite simply by calling on our pool of scientists and just arranging a one-day meeting. And you don't have to have it in a posh hotel. You can just have it in, well, even M&S auditorium, or the conservation symposium we organized was in University of Malaya in just a lecture theatre. Rimba Ilmu has a very nice lecture theatre. So it's not expensive to organize these special issues. And they also have another role. Avadani mentioned about this problem of one issue suddenly becoming issue 2, 3, and 4 because you had to meet the deadline for the year. These special issues automatically generate good articles on specific topics. So there have been several on caves, as I said, Tamanagara, and this tapir, Dr. Whitmore was working at FRIM at the time, and M&S organized an expedition, and FRIM was involved, and he was in a boat going up one of the little rivers from the Sungai Tahan, and this magnificent beast just walked across. So he grabbed his camera, in those days black and white, and started taking photographs, and after the 5th he ran out of film. And as he said, by the time he'd found his film, they'd have long gone. But fortunately one of them was like this. So he rushed into M&S really, really proud and said, I can give you a copy of your tapir. I hope everybody knows why tapir is our logo. Do you know? Why don't we have a tiger? Why don't we have elephants? Why have this funny animal? When M&S first started, they wanted to find a big animal. Sadly, plants never come into the picture. And they wanted something that was special for Peninsular Malaysia. And unfortunately, there isn't an endemic, iconic species. So this is the best we can do. It's only in Malaya and Sumatra, I think I'm correct in saying. Whereas if you have a look at the tiger, it's into Thailand. And then the elephant is also much more widely dispersed. So this is our most endemic animal. So that's why I believe it was chosen. That's what I was told. Okay, so the M&J, this produced a great fat volume. In Harmony in Nature, this was another one, and Bloom to Mango was another one. So these generated really big issues for the journal. So where does the future lie? I definitely think there is a niche for M&J that can produce articles of international standard and can gain international recognition. But we have to look for a niche. And I think our niche is local, as I said, the Sunderland, and field biology, because all the lab-based science have their own journals. So if you see a lab-based article in M&J, it's always a question mark. Has this not made the grade for an international journal overseas? Whereas our field biology, nobody can beat us. We are the world's experts for this. Internationally refereed. I cannot recommend this too strongly. And I noticed that the Earl of Cranbrook also mentions this in his speech. And it is noticeable if it's not internationally refereed. We are not a big country with hundreds and hundreds of scientists. So we do need to have a strategy to get enough articles of good standard. So one of the things is to have these special issues focusing on a particular field. And the other is to organize expeditions. This was in harmony with nature, in case you don't know. This was the Golden Jubilee, and Dr. Sally at that time organized this really international conference, but the international people were people who were experts in our region. So the papers that they gave were really good. So that is quite a landmark publication. So that indicates one of the things that we can do. Another thing we can do, and I appeal to the new committee who's incoming to seriously consider this. We haven't had an expedition now for some time, and Cameron Highlands is chronic. I mean, in the paper at the moment, they're just saying there's a traffic problem. Traffic is the least of their problem. We need to focus on the biodiversity, the flora and fauna. If you have a look in that bibliography, as I said, 30 articles on Batu Caves, only 12 on Cameron Highlands. We really have little documentation about the flora and fauna of Cameron Highlands. So it really is an area that needs to be studied. And then we need up-to-date data on hydrology. In the past, Cameron Highlands was famous for studies of erosion. Now water is becoming an issue in many states. And pollution. If you go to the Parrot Falls, it's an embarrassment. It's covered in plastic bags and smells of fertilizer and goodness knows what else. So this is the sort of thing that should be investigated. It's also a living museum for global warming. If global warming is going to have any effect in Malaysia, it's going to be in the mountains, and it's going to be in the cloud forest. The cloud forest is very sensitive. If it becomes too hot, the clouds will not sit on the top, and it will just become hot and dry, and we're already beginning to see that species that used to be collected cannot be refound. So this is an area that really needs up-to-date studying. We need to study the effects of tourism. Can you just keep on having more and more and more and more people? And then the agriculture, I mean, goodness me, they're even going up into lower montane forest. So anything goes there. It's, I think, if am I right, Dr. Mohammed Khan, isn't it a wildlife area? Cameron Highlands. That's the only protection it has, I think, as a wildlife area. Yeah, wildlife reserve. But well, what sort of enforcement is there? To 200. Yeah. So that needs to be invoked and proper enforcement brought in. There's also this tremendous problem of commercial collecting of orchids. We hear of cases at FRIM where an new orchid species is published, and within 3 months, somebody from overseas has come and completely cleared out every last plant. So this is a real worry. Then we have the M&S Center in the Bow Tea Estate. This is somewhere that could be, if we have an expedition, you can make money by charging people to go there. So this is somewhere where you can actually generate an income and use a facility that we have already. Our head of conservation, Balu Perumal, had a project in Cameron Highlands for several years, so he lived there. So he must know all the local officials and all the local area very well. So this is ideal. And then if we do what we did with the Endarompin and the Belum expedition, this will generate so much interesting articles in the press and in MN that it makes it easier to raise funds, and then people, if they want to join the expedition, join the society. And I think during the Endarompin period, that was the time when the membership peaked. So I really think that if we want to involve young people, this is the way to do it. They want an activity, they want to do something meaningful, and everybody can see how valuable this is. So we can educate the next generation, and hopefully we can get permanent legal protection, stronger legal protection, and enforcement. So I hope the new committee will consider this. Now, when I was writing this, thinking about this talk, I thought I better look at MN again and see what they're up to, and had the shock of my life when I saw this. It now costs 1,000 ringgit to submit an article to MNJ. What are people thinking of? I don't know any journal in the world it. If they don't like it, they return it. If you pay, you only pay when it's published.
That's not true. A lot of journals are charging internationally.
Not for submission fee.
Yes, but when they publish it, you have to pay.
That's what I told you. That is exactly what I said. Now the other thing is on acceptance for members and non-members. Now one overseas is often that you pay for open access rather than you actually pay. But this is very worrying because doesn't Malayan Nature Society have software for desktop publishing? Because graphs and diagrams can all be done with a click of a mouse. Why do you have to charge 650 extra for this? I mean, it's really, I don't know what's going on here. And the other thing is, if you don't have a citation index, who is going to publish? I mean, Dato 3 was saying the journals that charge you have a citation index. So you want to publish there, so you pay. But here, you pay 1,000 ringgit and it's not cited. So I thought, okay, I'll go on the web. What is our citation rate now? So I went into ResearchGate, and the citation rate has been going steadily down for the last 5 years and has reached the lowest it's ever been. So introducing this in 1917 has not made the citation index go up. It looks as though it's going down. So this is really very worrying, and I would, as I say, I appeal that the fees are rescinded and that we try to encourage people to publish rather than having them look at this and say, okay, why pay 1,000? I'll go somewhere else. So I really think this is a step in the wrong direction. So I hope something can be done about this. Color is now very important, and if you have a look at the latest issue, I must say, is a step in the right direction. It's got new species. I think the citation index will go up. But I think M&S should try other ways of funding the journal rather than charging authors when we don't have enough quality papers that are internationally refereed at the moment. So, in conclusion, I think that we do have enough. I think M&J does have an important role to play, producing an article of a journal of international standard in the fields of field biology and conservation. And I would hope that you would consider having an expedition to Cameron Highlands. I think it will help to raise the standard as well as having many other knock-on effects. So that is what I foresee as the future for M&J. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. The next presentation, well, the speaker is not here, but yeah, we managed to get a video presentation from him. So it's the 7 minutes presentation, so bear with in terms of the quality of the presentation. So the next speaker I would like to introduce is Lord Cranbrook.
I'm sorry I can't be with you, but I do wish you a successful conference on the future role of the Malaysian Nature Journal. I'll call it the MNJ like we always do for convenience. As my small contribution to the conference, I took a look at the history of voluntary societies, especially the role played by their journals as backup to major studies of local or regional natural history. This literature review resulted in a longish essay which I have sent to Donovan. Maybe you've seen it among the papers for this conference. My review shows the historical importance of local journals for the publication of new data and relevant research on natural history subjects. Drawing on my own experience in 1961 to 1970, quite a long time ago, when I was with the zoology department of the University of Malayan, and by the way, at that time, there was only one university in the country, then I valued MNJ highly as an outlet for reports on fieldwork, for new discoveries, and for reviews of the natural history of Malaysia and the region. For instance, from 1965, the National Bird Ringing Scheme was run from the university. MNJ published annual bird reports, collating the records of many observers in the peninsula and Singapore. These combined observations were assimilated in the fifth and final volume of The Birds of the Malay Peninsula, compiled by David Wells and myself and published in 1976. But today, we have to recognize that since the 1970s, the IT revolution has totally transformed methods of acquiring, storing, and disseminating knowledge of natural history. International scientific journals have multiplied, and many have adopted the digital format, as has MNJ. Customers, and by this I mean potential contributors and also readers, have changed character. From one university on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, there are now many, in all states, most teaching some biological subjects, and several publishing their own periodical journals of research. Digital photography and improved camera lenses have revolutionized birding, and also the observations and records of other forms of wildlife. Many active birders and other naturalists have personal websites, or Facebook pages, or blogs to publicize their field records. There is a risk that the proliferation and variety of these records may prevent a coordinated overview of the increment in knowledge and understanding of the natural history of Malaysia. To counter this risk, MNJ clearly has a role as a common point for the presentation of new information and the compilation of data. Despite the IT revolution, this role remains valuable for policymakers as well as for naturalists. With this importance, there comes responsibility to maintain a high standard of editorship, including careful review and refereeing. Contributors and readers must be assured that MNJ remains a quality publication. By the way, I'm the former chairman of the International Trust for Zoological Nomenclature, and I continue to place high value on this area of biological science. I therefore mention particularly the so-called nomenclatural acts, by which we mean the creation or the change of the taxonomic name of an organism. Special care by authors and editors is needed when MNJ publishes papers on these topics. International codes govern nomenclatural acts for plants, including algae, fungi, and fossil plants. The rules are set by the International Code of Nomenclature, abbreviated to ICN. Since 2012, ICN has permitted electronic publication of nomenclatural acts in botany using Latin or English as the language of description or diagnosis. In zoology, taxonomic acts concerning animals are governed by the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, shortened to ICZN. ICZN now does allow electronic-only publication, but only if the nomenclatural act is registered with ZooBank. ZooBank is a system that uses life science identifiers as the globally unique and permanent identifier. If it is not registered with ZooBank under ICZN, a nomenclatural act is considered to be non-existent. At all costs, MNJ must avoid the stigma of incorrectly publishing names in botany or zoology that are subsequently ruled invalid or non-existent, and that's important. But with these cautions and considerations, I do conclude that the commitment of MNS, Malaysian Nature Society, to the continuing publication of MNJ is fully justified. Suitably managed and edited, this publication is an asset well worth preserving for an enhanced role in the future. Colleagues, I'm sorry to miss your debate, but I look forward to your collective decisions on this important matter. Thank you. Hello everybody. Greetings from my home in Suffolk. I'm sorry I...
Okay. So yeah, that concludes Lord Cranbrook's speech. The final speech is basically, I'm going to call upon the MNS Council member, which is basically the Publication Committee Chairman, Mr. Winston. Yeah.
Thank you, Donovan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think we have been kept wide awake, very entertained by the storytelling of antiquity. What I'm referring to is the gentleman in front here represents the cream of MNS, and that generation is fast disappearing. For example, Dr. Lim Moliat, you're 93, and Mr. Momin, 83. I will stop at that, otherwise you run away. I will say I was much attracted to MNS because of those great leaders, very passionate scientists that did a lot for the country. I remember I joined MNS in 1981 based on one thing. Those days, jobs were hard to come by. When I finished my senior Cambridge, there was an advertisement in Straits Times asking for teacher training because the UNDP wanted to train agriculturists to teach agriculture in the rural areas. And being a kampong boy, when the result came out, all of us looked at this man and said, everybody applied. My class, there were only 34. Form 5 Science A. 17 all became teachers because there was nothing else to do. But before that, I had one very, what you would say, eye-opening experience. I live in Kluang, and there was this Chumara research station run by the British. If you know the old movie by Rank Organization, The Planter's Wife, it was filmed there at the height of the communist insurgency, right? So, and I came to know that they wanted to recruit new field conductor in the oil palm plantation. And as a green and eager boy of 17 or 16 plus, I went to apply. The first test was a photograph, black and white, of a cover crop, a leguminous cover crop. You have to tell Mr. Boo, who was interviewing me with his son, two huge British men, Mr. Chow, of course I felt honored. At 17, I called Mr., you see. Actually, I was just a boy. Say something about this photo. And I said, this is a bean, it's a climber. It is used to cover the soil to protect from erosion. That's very good. How do you know all this? Sir, observation. Okay. I want to ask you further. I will give you the job. You start at 175 ringgit. So I scratched my head. 175 ringgit those days was very big, but I was already employed as a temporary teacher for 175. I had with me a friend who came from a very poor family. And I said, Mr. Bull, I would like to take the job, but I think I need to help a friend. He said, why? He comes from a family of 12 and he's the oldest boy. I don't mind giving him the job. He said, well, it's up to you. I can take him. But do you want to interview him? No. If you say he's good, we'll take him. Then I learned that Mr. Bull was a member of MNS, and I never heard what MNS was all about. Then later, when I came out from teacher training, I went back to that place in Ringam, and there I met again people from the estate. This man, you should know him, RHV, Dr. RHV Colley. The wife would come and attend my art lesson. I was teaching batik printing. And I became part of that fraternity, and I began to look at research in the lab where they, in those days, they produce seedlings using a wet heat treatment. And I used to go to the lab and see, and I began to befriend scientists. Later, I was involved with a professor from Cambridge University. Lee Pineapple Plantation wanted to understand how and why their pineapple fields, the pineapple fruits are all rotting away in spite of what they've been doing. So this professor wanted help, and I got my Form 4 students to be field workers. So I asked him, what do you want me to do? I say, we have a hunch here that these ants carry the bacteria of rot, but we need to know how they move. So this professor and the wife sat there looking at the black ants on peat soil, which is black against black. I scratched my head and said, sir, I have a solution for you. We have crushed the biscuit and let the ants eat, so when they make a trail, you can see the trail of white moving towards where they want to go. And it worked. He was so happy to say that the smallest, simple idea is the most difficult. And I tell you that you have it. So that's how I got interested in research later. Anyway, coming back to this. As chairman of this preparation committee, I have my sweat and tears. I have my anxious moment, if not for two great helpers. Can I have Patrick Lee standing? I need to thank him. He's running MN. All right. And where is Mr. Donovan? You're going to thank him. He's running MNJ. Is Elena around here? Oh, you're here. Okay. Now, we depend a lot on this too. I have heard a lot, and what I'd like to conclude is this. First, I wanted to bring back identity to this journal. Some of you may not agree. This was the first, and I say, you cannot destroy identity which is recognized by the whole world. Why do you keep on changing the cover? One minute it's green, next minute it's brown, and there's the photo there. You should stick to this because this is a brand. People recognize this, people respect this. So when I step in, I brought this cover back again, black and white, exactly the setting layout is like this. So if you understand why I brought this back is because I'm a sucker for tradition, right? And I've gone through one full cycle of changes, good and bad, but I think we are living in a very different world now. We do not go to the field anymore like this generations before us, but I'm part of them. I'm part of the antiquity of talking about. The youngsters just use the button, watch the TV, and they go on a documentary trip, and they have seen every bird in the world. Now, the question is, when these people go to the university, how do you expect them to write articles for you to print? You find that most of the articles that is sent is based on their university work, the research or the field trip, nothing else. They cannot just off the cuff write something. You can't. But the older generation, yes, because when I got the first copy of this MNJ, most of the drawings were just pen drawing or pencil drawing. Very few photographed the first issue. Was it cyclostyle, the draft, initially when it started? No? Printed, black and white. And all were, what you say, drawn with great love and passion based on observation. Today, things have changed. One click of the camera, you can take thousands of photographs and select the best. That's what Professor was mentioning about the recent photographic exhibition. You can see that her time and the current photography has taken a very different stand. It features things differently. So those stage of early observation, you need that superpower to observe and draw accurately. And that was what made those researchers and field scientists great people. And I respect them thoroughly because I used to follow them when I was a young guy. I have gone to all the habitat. They've all been destroyed. And within my age, Johor lost half the jungle. I have followed game warden to go and catch poachers. I've slept alone in the jungle, using big leaf, putting on the ground, and getting up with 20, 30 leeches on the body. I have encountered all kind of danger, but what lives in me is this urge to write based on my experience. It's similarly the same with the older generations. When field work was very difficult, access was difficult, you needed to be a super strong man to go to the jungle. I first started to go to the jungle at the age of 10. I slept alone when my father and the game warden went to look for the poachers. I woke up in the morning, I found footprints all around me. And I could recognize that the deer was walking around me, the wild pigs were walking around me, the civet cat was walking around me, as well as all the prints are different. So based on the kind of exposure, it made me a person with a better understanding. It's not fear that when I go to jungle, all right? So we go to jungle with a different purpose. Every visit is a learning curve. Now I am very captivated by what has transpired in the past. And I have heard, and I agree totally with Dr. Awanani, what he's thinking of is exactly what I want to do if I'm waterback as in the publication secretary, publication chairman, for the same reason. A book in hand, you have a different feeling. You read online on computer, the interaction is not 100%. It's only the eye contact. Here, your love is buried among the pages of the book. And I have a lot of this type of books which I collect. And Mr. Mominkan, one of the earliest books you have, you wrote, I have it. All right? And that book taught me a lot as a young man. You wrote that in what, in the 70s? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, my dream is this. Based on the past, we have a good collection of all these articles. It's only to put them in thematic section or per issue. If it's on wild orchid, bring back all the old story because we can trace back to see what was then and what is now. Because I think wild orchid, the loss is tremendous. Dr. Hill, 1975, I think, Botanical Gardens, Singapore. I base this on what I read in the Orchid Review. 2 lorry load of the sleeper orchid were all stripped from Gunung Panti and sent to Botanical Gardens, Singapore. And it was recorded by Mr. Yap. Okay? So the barbatum, they wipe out. And it was reported that nibium was found there. And Mr. Yap went to plant back one plant in one secluded area. Today, I cannot find the plant. So what is so great about this orchid? You may not know the trait is fantastic. In tissue culturing, they need to have new material because when you do generation after generation of tissue culturing, they degenerate, all right? They lose certain characteristics. They need to buy the new material. And barbatum is found in Johor, Gunung Blumut, Gunung Ledang. But the fact is this, it's very easy to just put in your pocket everything. And Penang Hill. Is our population still thriving or gone? Dr. Say, is the Penang population still there? Some. All right. Anyway, that kind of loss is fantastic because on the internet, if you check, you can sell up to 10,000 US because they need that starting material to produce hybrids. And I remember, but I regretted the fact that I was one of the pioneer students to do genetic engineering. But halfway, the professor was taken out because he was in demand and they paid him great dollars, and I lost a lecture and I lost the course. I couldn't continue, nobody to teach me. So I'm a half-cooked potato that cannot be eaten. Anyway, when I talk about the present, I notice one thing. Our undergrad do not like field work. Number two, they have a change in lifestyle. They want convenience. You ask them to walk 10 kilometers in the jungle, they'll start crying. All right, they can't do that. And I at my age, I walked 90 over kilometers in this Malayan basin. And that is something that you cannot forget. Now, in receiving articles, normally Donovan and Patrick will send some to me, and I detected one big problem is the standard of English is so bad, you can't understand it, and you're not sure you're reading Spanish or German, but not English. And that is what really is scary about submission of articles that make no sense. Second thing, in this digital age where photography is supposed to be very easy, they submit horrible photograph. You can't see whether it's a bird or a cat, and they expect you to go and publish it. And I will make a lot of noise to parents say, no, this cannot be accepted. Which is to say, we have lost the touch. We have lost the touch of doing things. We just do because I want to do. We have no QC, self-quality control. We have no knowledge what is called bad, what is called good, what is called enough, or what is said to be not acceptable. Just now I heard the lamentation that our existence is dependent on one thing. How do you tell people what you are, who you are, and what you can do? And I remember when Enda-Romping expedition came up, well over 240 scientists came from all over to see and join in. Today, a local university organized an expedition. You join them, they have undergrads only, they don't bring other people in, all from one university. Inbreeding of ideas, inbreeding of everything, nothing gets published, right? And that is what is happening. But what Dr. Ruskil said just talk about Cameron Highland expedition, I think that I will support fully, all right? And I suggest that if Dr. Ruskil, you can hate this, I will try to find you the money. Okay, you can KIV this one while we collect the money for you. All right. I think, yeah, there is what your comment about why do we charge exorbitantly to get people's article published. I think when we consider the pros and cons, I think Professor Latif will agree with me, right? The funny thing is, for the crave for recognition, people are willing to pay. MNJ, we need money to operate. So having this in, of course, we do not put a gun to your head and say, pay or else I shoot you. No. And the funny thing is this, contributions have been coming in, getting more and more people want their articles to be published, which will say, look, it's so good, I pay you to publish it. Well, if I take away this source of income, we find difficulty in getting the thing printed on time. So we are, it is a very difficult choice, but I think for the sake of survival of this MNJ, we need to take your money, sorry. So anyway, I wholeheartedly agree what all the previous speakers have said, that if you don't publish what you know and you don't publish what you do, Malaysian Nature Society should take the word nature and cut it out, just Malaysian Society. But because we deal with nature, we need to inform and educate people. Without education, the society will not get where we want to go. That is why, honestly, if you ask me, this society should be headed by researchers, not businessmen. I'm not against you. So it can only work better that way. As the past, when we are headed by that kind of scientists, that quality was there. For the past few years, we had no expedition, am I right? There's nothing to attract people's attention, right? Our membership is going down. We do little announcement here, a bit of announcement that there's no impact on the life of others. All right? Because if you're not a scientist, you do not know the depth to go into. But if you are a scientist and you team up the rest of scientists, our perspective are multi-focused. And that is what makes it so interesting to do. Now, I'm an old sentimental fool about anything that's literary, because I think I was much attracted to all those old journals published in India when the colonial office was based in Bombay, I think. And they produced fantastic monograph on cicada of Southeast Asia. He's just an army man, He came all over Southeast Asia to study cicada, fantastic line drawing. And this I found in the NUS library. And when I went to that, I really took out my hat as well as my hair. That's why I'm bald, in due respect for that kind of achievement. So here, I don't know how far we can go, but I think among here, there are a lot of budding future scientists. But in Johor MNS, where I was chairman for a short while, I managed to put together 5 books, or 6 by now. Simple books, all right, with the help of my members in Johor. I brought them on small expedition, taught them how to record things. I taught them photography. When they first started, I taught them Photoshop. So I said, okay, let me start small and see whether I get anywhere. I'm always a teacher at heart, because if I don't pass on to the next or new generation, it's going nowhere except 6 feet underground, which is a waste of effort. Right? Then when I was appointed as the scientific advisor of Enda Rompin, under the second director, he was a man of foresight. When I went there, I saw one big problem. The orang asli were capturing the dragonfish, the green arowana there, to dig out the baby from the mouth for sale at 50 ringgit each. And every time they did that, the mother was killed in the net. And I was so sad, I called the button and said, look, you cannot carry on killing this fish because you want to get $50 per baby. If you keep this baby in the mouth, if you find 10, you take 5, give the mother 5. Both sides are happy. And it took a long time to convince them. So I got so fed up, I mounted a small scientific expedition among MNS Johor committee members to do fish study for over many years. And out came this field guide to the fishes of that river. And I think so-called layman scientists, we recorded more fishes than anyone else who had done study there. And US, 48 species. We have recorded 168. And who helped me? This is what you call sheer luck. I was in Bangkok attending the IUCN conference. That time, National Park sent me. I met an ichthyologist, a scientist who studies fish. Okay? So this American guy, he came from the Californian Institute of Science, Academy of Science, and he asked me, "Are you Mr. Vincent Zhao?" I said, "Do I look like him?" "I think so." "Are you interested in fish study?" I say, "I happen to be in one now." "Where is it?" I say, "Endorovin." "That is the place I've been dying to go. Can you bring me, please?" So I got a sponsor, put him up in a nice posh resort, Polite Spring, and I carted him to the park. He said he was looking for a golden loach, which he thinks is still there. He found that in Burma. We have never seen what a golden loach is, but I faintly remember where I saw it once. He was there for 5 days. When I visited him, he said, "Vincent, I cannot find that damn stupid fish, no matter what I do, where I go." I said, "No, it's not where you went, it's what you know about this place. Let me show you where." I brought him there. The moment he went down, he caught 45 of that one golden loach. He yelled and shouted like a little boy who got his first birthday present. And he got permission to bring it back to California. Now, what is that so important to you? It's called local knowledge. I know the park inside out when it comes to biodiversity, because until today, the museum in London cannot tell me what I photographed, a 5-inch mosquito that is colored orange, purple, and green, and it flew like a helicopter up and down. Rested on the plant, I took the insect together with the size of the leaf to get the comparison of size. It was published in a book that I wrote for the Forestry Department of Johor. First page, I asked the question, "What is this?" So meaning that I'm not an entomologist. I came across that, and I'm very curious. I got it published in a book. So meaning that for everything that is put on or in print, it becomes a reference for the future generation as what all this has been. And we are lucky that we are able to hold this in our hand and look at it again and marvel at how great our country was. Probably still is, I don't know. But the expedition, if you can do it in Cameron Highland, I think we'll be able to grow the society again. Where is this? I think our officer is probably not in that league like you, no? You could actually head the thing, and you bring up all these young people. I'm very interested is where are the second liners below us? Among you sitting there, there are very good people there, I know, but you need to come in. Example, Hafiz. Bangunlah. This young man is full of energy, interested in everything that moves. All right? People like him, you should get him. He's just one example. But of course, there are many among you, I still need to know you first. But I think the publication committee need your input, need your contribution. I give due respect to Dato Sri Lim, who published his own journal of what he found, and he discovered, yeah, look at that. I knew this great man through this that he published. his own original discovery. And this record is priceless and precious. Dr. Sri, how old are you now? No secret, huh?
Slightly younger than William.
So who calls Taiko? You call him Taiko. Now, this is proof, ladies and gentlemen, old is gold. And coming out with this sort of thing is no joke, eh? But who say you cannot do this? You start young. I'm sure you can do this. My dream and hope for the future is one thing, that we go back in the publication of a lot of these books which used to be. I still have Henderson's. Yeah? What? Monocot and dicots, right? He published that. Wayside Tree, Corbett Pendlebury, Butterflies of Peninsula Malaysia. Now all of these are classical things that you really must admire. Now it's Holloway's, is it? The Moss of Borneo? Now after that, there's a big gap. Dr. Dave, you publish your snakes, right? Yeah, you have 2 books, right? Mr. Momingan, plus the recent one, another what? Another 4. Dr. Kill, you used to write about your frogs, but no more already. So on and so forth, all right? And Rookie published a lot, Begonia, but the question is, why isn't MNS publishing all their books? Why did you go to others? Very simple. Our mind cannot change. We give always the same answer, no money to read, sorry. We do not work hard enough. So in the publishing committee, I always say, publish or perish. That is the motto of the scientific community. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your patient listening to me. I hope that we will get better materials for MNJ as well as MN, and that you always support us, whether by contribution of articles or your patronage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. I'm going to open up any questions for an answer for these 5 minutes before we break for refreshments here. Could someone hand up the microphone? Or we use that. Yeah. Just state your name and your questions. Yeah, it does.
Anyway, since Vincent has asked me,
Yeah.
I came just to listen, but certainly get the Journal of the Society going. I've been a life member, and actually I must ask Latif's permission to speak on many things he should be telling you about. Starting off with Cameron Highlands, I hope enough members know that there have already been expeditions organized under Latif, under the Forestry Department. And they should, firstly, you should get hold of the Forestry Department publications to know what has been done. Secondly, when I was chairman of FRIM, I was the one that initiated the Cameron Highlands Research Center, now called CHIM, which I believe has been upgraded, although a lot more needs to be done. So from the forestry side, on the botanical side, a lot is already going. You only need to add on to that. Now, when you want to go into domain, you must also know what other people are doing, like what WWF, also that group who are very jealous about their heritage in Cameron Highlands. What do they call? There's a conservation group up there. So you have to be inclusive.
Inclusive.
You have to be inclusive if you want to be successful in your scientific endeavor. The MNS needs to really look comprehensively at the network of people doing work in this field, and you cannot work alone. Since I've been exposed, indeed, for the last 16 years, I subsidized and published a journal called Folia Malaysiana, and if you may allow me, I'll tell you how it happened. Before that, I got interested in fieldwork, and I felt that we should, within our own country, know much more about our own flora than the people from outside. So I did fieldwork, and very soon I was in the position to publish. So I began discovering new species, and I had to learn the rules of taxonomy, and certainly Cranbrook reminds us, we should know the codes. We should also know the international mafia that's controlling nomenclature. So when you go for peer review, you've got to know the fake reviewers, and the guys are not so good. Now, let's take magazines and journals. Firstly, Ruth should be able to tell us the cost of the Singapore Gardens Bulletin. What is the cost of the Q Bulletin today? Of course, electronically they are now available, but if you want a hard copy, you can hardly afford it. Also, the publication, I can quote you articles in the field I'm familiar with, where obviously even journals like Q have not been properly reviewed. There were even errors taxonomically in some of them. The message is that we must breed our own experts in our own country. Why did I not publish in Malayan Nature Journal and instead publish in the Singapore Gardens Bulletin and in the International Palm Society? A, because they welcomed me. I did not sense the welcome to publish in Malayan Nature Journal. I have to create a welcoming thing to encourage the authors write better English to begin with, but look at the content and breed a new generation of people and have your internal experts. I have to quote you some very supercilious international experts and how I got from being very knowledgeable about palms to gingers. And for the record, I have published over 75 new species of palms and gingers and 5 new genera. Now, I'm sure I'm quoted because they cannot help the new species unless they dispute them. It can be done, but you need to encourage and firstly ask, why is it our own scientists publish overseas? And I find it shocking that researchers from FRIM should be publishing in Singapore rather than in the Malayan Nature Journal. Firstly, because they say they need Scopus recognition. But that's not the way. You have to back your own journals first. And there was a funny case where a new species of Rafflesia was published in the Turkish Journal of Botany. Who reads it? If you want to be a true scientific body, you must not keep within the confines of your country. So in terms of bibliography, you have to capture all that's internationally published about the subjects in your own country. That means scanning the world. You need a very good scientific reader to catch all this material. So there's a huge amount of work to be done, and I think I've spoken enough, but we really need to get a very dedicated body of national scientists to get together to put the scenario right, and not only for the MNJ, but in any other organizations, not excluding the Academy of Sciences Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, any more questions? Okay, we shall take a break now for 15 minutes and we'll come back to the hall. Okay, good afternoon. Members who are outside, can you come into the hall because, yeah, we're going to conclude the conference. Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry? The aircon is. Yeah, we're just waiting for another important speaker, Prof. Avadani. I think, yeah, you just step up for a bit. Yeah. Gents. So welcome back for the afternoon session. subsequent programs after this is much to do with the launching of the website. Now, I'm just going to give a very general description in terms of the website. We had a website 10 years ago, and it was I would say a web channel, and much of the publications inside there were done in a sense of scanning it from the old journals, and because much of the old journals was going derelict and all, there was a lot of tedious process in terms of scanning much of the manuscripts that we had. So all in all, we have almost close to about 3,000 over manuscript, and it was confined to very minimal people that work on it. So it took a long process because of that. Now, the launch of this new website, because we have upgraded ourselves, we're still working on it, and basically now we have gone into what is called a beta, which is not, I would say beta, but it's beta channel, which is on a digital channel. Now, this migration will take place next week, but it's up now, running up on the website. So basically, if you guys are the subscribers, we will progressively work or send a mail just to tell you how to get into the new website and all that. So now is the launch. So I would like to invite all the speakers who presented this morning to come on stage, and we'll do a launch. A quick launch on the website. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Left hand or right hand? You put a left hand here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this gives you a new interface or a new look of the new mnj.my website. Yeah. So can someone click on the? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can. Yeah, thank you. So, whatever transpired today, we'll hope that everything it speaks by itself from through our website. Subsequent after this, we'll be giving out some tokens to all the speakers that attended here today. Yeah, I think you just go there and present. Yeah. So we'll begin with Professor Emeritus Dato Abdul Latif, the chief editor. Yeah, yeah. Just go there. Oh yeah. Can I get Mr. Henry go and yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Sorry about this. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think just outside from the. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's it. I think Henrik, do we just stand here? Yeah, well, it was just a lot to do with the projector and this. Yeah, bear with us. Sorry. Yeah. Subsequent. Yeah. Can you get Tan Sri Dato Sri? Yeah. Saleh bin Muhammad Noor to come up. Dr. Lim Bun. Yeah. 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 Could I have Dr. Lim Bulian? Yeah, we'll hit towards Dr. Lim, please. Dr. Q Bon Heng. Yeah. Mr. Muhammad Khan Momin. Dr. Ruf Q. We'll keep one for Lord Cranbrook, yeah, who will be coming down in this coming October, yeah, in terms of token, okay. The last and not least, yeah, Vincent, yeah. Okay, last is, yeah, Professor Dr. Pian Avadani. Yeah. Here, just keep us. Okay. I will pass to yeah. I'll pass to Stephanie.
John Coe, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, to come up on stage. Okay. Well, as many of you will remember, we had an anniversary dinner some time ago in 2015, when at the time we presented the Tapia Award to Vincent Chow for conservation, and we presented a Tapia Award for a Lifetime Tapia Award to Sri Sally. Well, it's my pleasure to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to present the second Lifetime Tapia Award today to Professor Avahani. For those of you that don't know him as well as we do, we all have a membership number. My membership number starts with is 23,000 and something. Professor Avahani's is 10. Sorry, got that wrong. 10. He's been a stalwart of our society as well as the Singapore Nature Society. So together, if you could put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Professor Avahani, while Henry and John present him this very special award.
So this concludes the conference here, and oh, just hang on, yeah. Professor will be giving a short speech.
Friends in nature, friends in action, and friends in destiny. Thank you all very much. I'm really taken aback. First of all, I was very grateful for the hospitality that I received here. Donovan here has made sure that my handicaps don't show too severely in this process. But obviously, I'm at a stage when I cannot hide all my handicaps. And thank you for being patient with me on the handicaps. And this award really makes me, I don't know what to say. My heart, my mind, and my body is all reacting in a way that I feel, do I really deserve it? And,
oh, yeah, of course.
Thank you all very much. And I have joined this society at the end of 1960. And I think probably out of these 78 years of the society, I have been probably involved almost for 60 years in this society. And I have seen this society grow from strength to strength, from project to project. But I have also seen the society go from conflict to conflict, and from sometimes in terms of a sleeping mode, sometimes in a silent mode, sometimes in a reactivation mode, and I have seen the society in all its forms. And to be honest, I have been involved in all these things, and one of my major roles has been trying to brush the egos of people so that they can get together in a little bit more amicable way. There was an incident, Dr. Q mentioned that Singapore branch, Malayan Nature Society, has been involved. The name of the Malayan Nature Society has been a bit difficult for Singapore politicians to accept, and that is the reason why we had to separate. I never felt that different place. To me, Malaysia, Singapore, India, wherever you like, when it comes to conservation and nature, it's one place that is really it. There was in Singapore when the Singapore branch was having a little bit of friction in the early 60s with Selangor branch, and I stepped in to sort of really make sure that things don't get any worse. When Penang branch formed, there was again a little bit of a friction, and I tried to make sure that Penang branch doesn't really go against the norms of the society. And there was a year when I wanted the committee meetings to be held in each branch separately, and we thought the budgets would not allow, but the budgets were no different from having every committee meeting in Kuala Lumpur. So at the end of the day, my heart was in the society, but right now my heart is still in the society, but my body is really refusing. As they say, the vodka is fine, but the meat is rotten. Thank you all very much once again, and I'm really touched by your feelings. Thank you.
So this concludes the MNJ conference. Thank you for your participation for today. The next thing is lining up is that we're going to have a group photo session just outside the hall. Yeah, we get everyone, probably into positions, and thank you. No rush, just take your time here.